Connor Zilisch was leading on the white flag lap at Watkins Glen last year in his ARCA debut with a broken sway bar, some sort of mechanical issue, got passed by Jesse Love coming out of the final corner. So he's a slight mechanical issue away from being 5 for 5 in his first 5 starts in the national series for ARCA. He's won 4 of 6 East Series races this year as well. And so I tweeted on Friday that, look, I think, I mean this as a compliment. Connor Zilisch, I think, in a lot of ways, is simply too good for ARCA. And then I quote tweeted that yesterday with the results that we got here. And I said, William Sawalich is also too good for ARCA. Now, I don't know, Brandon, to your point, I don't know that you can necessarily do anything for it because it's just what Diecast said in that video last year. It's not against the letter of the law for Joe Gibbs Racing to run this car in the ARCA Menards Series, but it's kind of against the spirit of the law for them to take an unlimited Cup Series level budget and put it in these races where, I guess aside from the money that Toyota's pouring into Venturini and I guess that Chevy's pouring into Rev Racing, and not to say that those teams aren't, doing a lot with, the resources that they have and certainly are higher up in terms of their equipment than some of the drivers you see here on the second half of this list. There's certainly levels to this, and Venturini and Rev are at the top of the series among non-Cup affiliated programs, but even they, you can see, are having a hard time competing with Joe Gibbs Racing here because, again, I was texting a couple of friends back and forth as we were watching the race unfold yesterday. Was there ever any doubt that William Sawalich was going to win this race? And I look at the results here, and we'll get into this here a little bit later on. It's my one shining moment. I see Adam's comment here in the chat room. Imagine the storylines today if we could be talking about Isabella Robusto, who I have called on this network before, I think potentially the best female prospect in this sport since Shauna Robinson, winning her first race in, I don't know, was this her second dirt race before? She doesn't have a ton of dirt experience, but then you could follow that up by saying Taylor Reimer finishing right behind her. Imagine if that was a runner-up finish in her only second ARCA start. And Venturini comes away with a 1-2 finish with 2 female drivers. What a story that would be for the series and for the sport. But we have a Joe Gibbs Racing ARCA car standing in the way of that, and it's William Sawalich's, I think, what is this, his 5th win in his last 6 starts in that car this year. He's winning almost every time he gets behind the wheel, almost leading every lap almost every time he gets behind the wheel. I don't know. I don't, it's not illegal. I don't think there's anything you can necessarily do. I saw somebody tweet yesterday, park the 18. And I'm like, okay, I get it. I don't love seeing this. It's nothing against the driver behind the wheel. But I get the sentiment. I don't know what you can do. And yet at the same time, I feel like something does have to be done to make this series a little bit more competitive and a little bit more watchable. I don't know if that's a cost cap. I don't know if that's, saying, all right, Gibbs, you can enter a car, but we got to put some sort of handicap on you. Like you can't be running a brand new motor, a brand new chassis every week here, like you do with, your Cup program or whatever. I don't know.
My first thought.
Yeah. But yeah. You basically, like, what do you think is going to happen when you have a Cup program competing against a bunch of ARCA programs? The Cup program, 90% of the time, is going to win the race pretty much unopposed, or at the very least, come away with the top 2 or 3, which is what Sawalich has done every race this year except Dover, which he sat on pole and led the most laps for before he DNF'd with a 17th place finish. So it wasn't because he didn't finish there on pace. He certainly had the pace to win that one as well.
It's the Brewers organization playing in Little League.
Single A.
Single A.
I'm not going to go so far as to say Little League, but yeah, it is. Yeah, it's the same. It's really, when you think about it, it's from a team perspective. It's like Kyle Busch winning all these Truck Series races. It's okay. You're a Cups. You're coming in from the Cup Series. What do you think is going to happen? I'm not saying that it takes zero skill or that we talked about Kyle's records here on the show before, but if I can be quite honest with you, I think what Kyle does as a driver is still more impressive than what Joe Gibbs Racing as an organization is doing here. And again, no disrespect to Sawalich, because he's just a driver and all this, and I think he's got a bright future. But you put a very good, talented prospect behind the wheel of objectively the best car in the series. I don't know. I just
there's literally nothing stopping you from Richard Pettying the field for the whole year.
And it doesn't create a very compelling product in my humble opinion. I just don't see how it's sustainable. Your winners this year in ARCA, to kind of put a bow on this, William Sawalich has 6, Connor Zolich has 4. That's 10 of your 14. Connor Mosack also got a win in that Pinnacle 28 car at Kansas. Tanner Gray also got a win in that Gibbs 18 at Charlotte. So that's 12 of your 14 races. The only 2 others are the Talladega races, or the Super Speedway races, rather, Daytona and Talladega. Gus Dean winning for Venturini at Daytona, Jake Finch at Talladega for Venturini, but they're part-timers. So, we're what is this now? 70% of the way through the season.
Yeah, your full-timers are starving.
Yeah.
And you're not leading them to water.
I don't.
They can't get to the water.
Yeah. And again, I don't know that you can step in as a series and, automatically fix the solution. But what does it say when, I mean, and how good is it for your drivers who are trying to work their way up? Like, is this the best place for Andres Perez and LeVar Scott, who are 1-2 in the championship right now? And Perez, unfortunately, had a mechanical issue, had to settle for a 15th place run here. LeVar Scott gaining back a lot of what he lost at Michigan in the points battle, but I think Perez still holding a pretty healthy lead in the series right now. But I don't know. I mean, it honestly, it makes me wonder now that the series is under NASCAR sanctioning. The last time a guy almost won a championship without winning a race, we completely revamped how we crown our champion the very next year in the Cup Series. I don't know what's going to happen, but it feels like what is happening this year in this series. And I'm not putting a win past. I mean, LeVar Scott was this close at Elko. Andres Perez has, 3 second place finishes in the last 4 races coming into Springfield. They've come close, and it's certainly not past their capabilities. But I don't know. I don't think it's a great look for the series if your full timers can't be taking those celebratory photos in victory lane, because it's really just 2 cars have a monopoly on this series, no matter who's driving them.